is good, everybody? How's everybody's day today? Hope it was good. I know our day was fantastic in the floor. We had a great start to the week. Had a, believe I think it was 48% trade on Tesla in basically one candle. Uh, Absolutely insane move. Now, I did signal this over mic, and unfortunately, I did not signal it over text as well. This originally intended to be a starter position that I was going to take into another play, but I ended up being in this with enough, and it was such a big move just in one candle that I was like, all right, I really don't need anything more from this. This gave us more than enough. Absolutely insane play to start the week. We caught Tesla here literally on this 935 candle right here. Got a fantastic entry on this. Stop loss, we were looking at about 40 cents for a stop loss on this, and we ended up catching a move below low of day. We actually got out on this 937 candle right here. I sold half of my position. So I was actually in with two different sets of contracts. I was in with the 385 puts originally, which I got in on the 933 candle, which is this candle right here. And then I ended up taking the 390 puts. Yeah, 390 puts on this on the 935 candle. So I sold my 390 puts on this 936 candle, and I sold my 385 puts on the 937 candle. Now, the reason I didn't just add to the 385 puts is because with this position, I did want to be in with contracts that were a little bit closer to the money. Unfortunately, last week I made the mistake of taking the wrong contracts on Microsoft, and they just got eaten up by time decay. We got stuck in a bit of consolidation, and those contracts just got eaten up. So I was trying to get contracts that were a little bit closer to the money so they held their value a little bit better. And that is why I ended up taking the 390 puts on this 935 candle instead of just adding to that original position. But anyways, insane trade, insane way to start the week. I'll show you guys real quick just a little bit from Profits chat here. Actually, I don't think not very many people posted in Profits chat. People posted in Stocks chat though. Give me just a second. About to pull this over so you guys can see here. Last week, pretty slow week. I'm trying to move this over without making it go full screen. There we go. So, little 510 profit, 276. That was my day for today. But yeah, you guys absolutely crushed that. 215 plus 336. Yeah, insane day. A lot of you guys caught that too. So great work. Hope you guys were in there with me to catch that. Also, just have to do a quick plug. If you're not in the floor already, click the first link in the description. You can trade live with me and the team. We'd love to see you in there. But anyways, that was how we started off our day. We will go ahead and get to the actual main point of this live stream, which is the charting session. And obviously we're going to have a Q&A at the end. Usually we get done with the charting pretty quickly here, so we have a decent amount of time left over for questions. But we'll go ahead and get started from the top of the watch list, see what we've got cooking. I didn't have a ton that I liked this morning. I liked Tesla and I liked Nvidia. Those were the only two things I was really watching. So I'm not really expecting to see a ton of setups here. Apple actually was one that I didn't mind, but we never ended up getting down there, so that's fine. I'm actually perfectly okay with that. I don't love trading Apple anyways. So we'll go ahead and just go through here, see what we've got setting up for tomorrow and possibly the rest of the week. AMD actually looks really good here to the upside. I like this 203.79 level. I would actually probably look at today's high of day into that level for a breakout. 202.97. 202.97 looks great. Into this 203.79 level. Above that, we've got room to our next resistance here at 204.97. And honestly, at that point, I would probably just look for the 205 break, maybe 206 if we see momentum above that. That should actually pay on AMD. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this. We'll come back to it when we actually create the watch list here. Let's see. Is his volume low? Is my volume low? Can you guys hear me all right? Okay. All right, cool. I just saw you said that. I wanted to make sure I wasn't talking to myself here. All right, let's see. Amazon, I'm all good. ARM, pass. AVGO, pass. We haven't had a good setup on AVGO in a while. I feel like this thing is due for a good setup. Next thing I really have on this is at 352.59. I'm really not interested until there. So AVGO has got a little bit to go before I would be looking at this again. You know what I feel like I need to do? I feel like I need to get like an arm for my microphone because I have it sitting in a spot that if I'm looking directly at the Discord and I'm looking directly at the stream itself, I'm going to be talking into the microphone, but every time I'm looking at my charts, the mic is way over here. So I feel like that might be part of the problem. Eddie. I just really don't like having the microphone directly in front of my face. Yeah, I can't stand those. I think they just get in the way. Let's see here. Coin, all good there. So far, we're not seeing a ton. AMD is definitely the best looking thing out of everything I've seen so far. Let's see. Circle ended up breaking out. Was this nice? Let's see. Thursday's high. Was this nice on the 1 minute? Oh, no. No, that would have been most likely a stop loss there. I'm glad we were not really focusing on that. Let's see. CRM, I'm all good. Crowd, I will pass as well. CRWV, I am no longer interested. I really liked this 70.46 level, but we ended up breaking it pre-market, so not really anything to look at there. Curious what people saw on MSTR this morning. You know what, Eddie? I am as well, actually. I know Seth took that. Is Seth in stream right now? Seth, if you're here, just say yes. I actually am curious because I know he took that. I just didn't really see anything there that I was a massive fan of. What happened after 2 CLK in market? Not exactly sure what you mean by that, Ceci. What's Google doing here? Broke out at the end of the day, but we didn't really hold anywhere. I don't know that anything specific really happens. I mean, we see rallies in the market towards the end of the day sometimes. We also see sell-offs in the market towards the end of the day. So, oil tank from, okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was not at the charts at that point in time. Not at the charts. Let's see. Google. I would say that 307.50 doesn't look, or sorry, 307.05 doesn't look too bad. But really all this is going to be is just like an after hours inverse H setup. looking for upside momentum to continue here. There's not really anything major set up right there, but it is a possibility. So I'll go ahead and mark it. It could definitely make a good side watch for sure. Hood, I'm all good. I don't have anything there. Let's see. Meta. Not have anything there either. I mean, I guess you could probably get away with looking at meta to the upside once again at this after hours high and maybe play it into that resistance from Friday, but definitely not as clean looking as I would like it to be. Once again, might not be terrible for a side watch here though, so we'll go ahead and leave it marked. I have not gotten to PLTR yet to see, but I will get there. Marvel actually looks decent here. 93.40. So we are coming back up to some pretty significant levels. I wouldn't necessarily consider this an insane significant level for Marvel, but I mean, Friday's push was insane on this. So the fact that we came all the way back up to it today and closed towards that high today, if we can hold in this 91 to 92 area before market open, I would actually be okay with looking at this. If we are going to have any upside continuation or upside momentum, we're going to be close enough to these levels where we're not going to be ridiculously overextended by the time we get there. So that's the main thing that I want to look for in trades like this. If we're coming back up to a level that we clearly, this is an extended move from 83 all the way up to 93. That's a $10 move on what was an $83 stock. That's a massive move. But if we can start out around 91, 92, this high I actually like. If we end up pulling back all the way down to the 89, 88 area, I'm not too interested. Just because, once again, if we get up there quick enough that we are still going to be at the charts, it's going to be extended, you know? So if we can move, like I said, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if we can move $5 in the matter of 30 minutes on Marvel, this thing is going to be pretty extended. So I would prefer us to be starting basically right at that level, which is kind of where we're at right now. So I do kind of like this. Still not the most promising thing in the world, just mainly because of the stock that it's on, not really because of the setup. If that setup was on Tesla, I would be all over that, but Marvel's one of those that sometimes it has volume, sometimes it doesn't, so it's just a little bit more iffy for me. Nvidia tried to break out of this 1 hour downtrend towards the end of the day. We could not end up holding, but we are coming up to some pretty major resistances here at 184.06, and then we have one here at 184. I don't think that was drawn exactly where it needs to be. Hold on. I have another one here at 184.70. So today's high actually looks solid into that as well. I have a feeling that's going to be the majority of our setups today, is looking at the high of day into some other more notable resistance levels. The 182.91, I like that. I'm honestly kind of just disregarding this 5-minute channel at this point. I mean, everything else though looks pretty solid. Only thing is we haven't held above these major trends, but that's fine. As long as we can pick up momentum from this area leading into that level, I'm not too concerned with those trends. We've broken them once. Breaking them again is going to be easier, so that's fine. The main thing is they're not lining up right at our entry levels to the point where, you know, it can get smacked down like crazy. PLTR, Sasi, I don't love anything here. Looks like a lot of chop today. I think downside is a possibility, but I also think upside is probably an equal possibility here. And the upside levels for this are just not as clean as a lot of these others that I've been looking at. So I'm going to pass on PLTR. If we do end up seeing downside though, this after hours low at 151.26 looks pretty solid. I would probably look to play that into this 149.21 low of day from Friday. Anything below that would just be icing on the cake here. I would just be targeting momentum below that, most likely into 148. So downside, I think I like downside better on PLTR, but right now where it's currently sitting, it looks like upside and downside are pretty equal possibilities here. So yeah, that one actually might make it onto the side watch as well. I guess we're gonna have to figure out what our main watches actually are here. Shopify is coming up. Did we have any volume today? No. Okay. Yeah, I can't trade a stock if it doesn't have volume, so we're gonna have to move on from that, even though the setup itself does not look bad. Snow. Once again, coming up to a relatively significant level here, but once again, no contract volume. Can't do anything with a stock that has no contract volume. Obviously, SPX, ES, SPY, all those pushed pretty heavily today. InQ, well. Let's see here. Most likely last but not least, Tesla. We ended up pushing pretty crazy on this, and we could look at 401.59, but honestly, it doesn't look as clean as a lot of these others do. So I am probably going to pass on Tesla. Unless we do something overnight where we have some type of just glorious pre-market setup, I'm all good on Tesla. I don't really want to give back profits from today on Tesla, just trying to force a trade on Tesla. So yeah, I think we've got some actually really solid looking setups here. We'll go ahead and bring the scratch pad out and get to writing these down. Is not what I meant to do with that. There we go. All right. So first things first here, AMD, we're looking at 202.97. That is today's high of day. Looking at the 202.97 high of day for a breakout. We are currently forming an inverse H/bull flag into this level. Looking to play this through the 203.79 resistance. Targeting a move to the 204.97 resistance. Above this, I will just be watching for momentum into the 205 break for my final target. Nice. All right, moving on. We'll go ahead and just write all these down here, and then afterwards figure out what we want to put in main watch, side watch, all that good stuff. So Google, ticker is GOOGL, not GOOG, for anybody that's following along with me here. Google, I like the after hours high, so looking at the 307.05 after hours high for a breakout. Once again on this, we are forming an inverse H flash bull flag into this level, targeting a move to the next major resistance at 308.49. Above this, I will be using momentum as my final target. Overall on this, we've got a gap that we still need to fill. And that gap lines up at 309.01. So I think, actually probably going to rewrite this here. Okay. Above this, we have a small portion of a gap to fill at 309.01 for my final target. There we go. That gap is on the 1 hour. All right, next. All of these trade plans are going to sound very, very similar because they all are pretty much the same setup, to be honest. So at this point, it's kind of coming down to which stock we want to trade most. So Meta, I'm going to be looking at the 648.60 after hours high, where we are forming, guess what? Another inverse H or bull flag. All right, targeting a move on this to the high of day from Friday at 649.45. Above this, I will be looking for momentum above the 650 break for my final target. Target, not target. There we go. Marvel. Guess what, guys? We're forming an inverse H or a bull flag into the the high of day. Once again, we're going to be targeting the high of day from Friday. Yeah, these are all very, very, very similar setups here. So just get used to me basically repeating myself at this point. 94.20 is that next major resistance on the 4 hour. Okay. So Marvel. You trade patterns, it's also a cup and handle. Yeah. You are correct, Ray. Yeah, Ray, I was hoping Seth was here. I was going to have Seth explain himself. I'm actually about to just tag him in chat. Where are you? I need you to explain yourself. All right. Marvel looking at, once again, the high of day from today at 92.93. All right. Sorry, just had to respond to Seth real quick. I think I may have just given him a minor heart attack. Where are we targeting high of day? Yeah. Oh, there he is. What's up, Seth? You gotta explain yourself, buddy. What were you looking at today? Yeah, I'll get there in just a minute, Seth. I'm gonna get finished with the watch list real quick, then we'll go over that. All right. So Marvel looking at the high of day from today at 92.93 for a breakout. Targeting, actually, I'm gonna be looking to play this into this level. I'm most likely not gonna be getting out that soon, so playing this into the high of day from Friday at 93.40. Targeting a move to the next major resistance on the 4-hour at 94.20. Depending on how contracts are moving, I may look to scale out above the 93.40 resistance. All right, and then we have NVIDIA. At the 182.91 resistance for a breakout, targeting a move to the next resistance level on the 1-hour at 184.06. Above this, I have room to the next major resistance at 184.70 for my final target. PLTR, we'll go ahead and throw this on here just in case we do see downside. Looking at the 151.26 pre-market low for a break to the downside. We are currently holding inside a 1-hour uptrend channel, but if we break, we could see some nice momentum leading into this low. Targeting a move to the low day break from Friday at 149.21. Then the next support at 148.06 for my final target. Boom. All right. Watch list is done here, and then AMD is upside. Actually, I think everything is upside except PLTR. So AMD upside, Google upside, Meta upside, Marvel upside, NVIDIA upside, and PLTR downside. Perfect. All right, that is what we've got here, and then yeah, I know, Captain Tony. My brain has been working for too long today. All right. We'll go ahead and organize those into main watch and main watch and side watch after we get through Seth's explanation here. Let's see here. All right. Seth said 1 hour on MSTR. Take a look at it. And then, first of all, the reason I was looking at MSTR is because of the war. I was looking at the currency/gold. Super bullish on those. I liked the pre-market high since it bounced off the level from Tuesday. Okay. All right. So Seth, what exact level were you looking at? The pre-market high? So 134.93. Right. Okay. But after that, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, I wonder if you could hop on Discord real quick and you could just talk over it. You want to try that? Yo. Hold on. I gotta turn my desktop audio up. Can you hear me, Seth?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me just mute you in VC.
There you go. All right.
Actually, let me mute the stream so I could just hear you. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you guys hear him in the stream?
Oh, there's like a delay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a delay on YouTube stream. I have the stream muted on my computer so it's not like overbearingly loud
Yeah.
and echoing. All right, perfect. Sweet. All right, continue.
Okay, so I was looking at 130, like 494-ish, 135-ish level pre-market. Um, but then you can see like it gains a lot of strength because my initial target was probably going to be 136.36, and
Gotcha.
to
That would have been basically the high of day from Friday, right?
yeah, sorry. And then also there's a Thursday level there as well, like the wick at 137. So I had those three levels marked out. I
Gotcha.
saw the 1 minute, like you could just see it basically broke all my targets,
Right.
and then it wicked down a lot. But as soon as it would get close to 136, like on my phone, I'd just see it like get bought up really quickly,
Right.
and then it would slowly come down. It did this like twice, so I took my entry on. I'm pretty sure I took it on the second candle at 9:31
9:31. Okay.
because of because how it was reacting. Let me just pull up my fills here real quick. Yeah, I literally took it at 9:31:58, basically when this candle closed,
Right.
and I rode it out because I liked this upward momentum, but it was like stalling out. So you could see like it wasn't actually gapping up anymore. It was just stalling.
Right.
So I was just holding this and I was just like getting nervous. And then I got the breakout. It came back down. I was about to hit stop loss because I moved my stop into profits here.
Gotcha.
And then it finally broke the because I was looking at 138.16, I think I said. And like it wicked it previously, and then I got out on the 942 candle. Yeah.
940 942 can. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
because
So
it wicked it and I just got out.
what was your initial plan for this trade? Like stop loss, target? I mean, not your initial plan, but once you got in.
Um Once I got in, if it broke 136, I was out.
Gotcha. Okay, so you were keeping a
Like
super tight
if
stop on
this
that.
second candle opened, it I would give it some room. If it went like 136 135.50
Mm-hmm.
and then wicked up, like if it had like a good bounce, I would stay in it. But if it just sold, I was out.
Gotcha. So you were giving it. I mean, you had either way on that. It was like a 50 to 75 cent stop loss at most.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
I
pretty
was looking
solid.
at like $2.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
So
It's good
yeah.
risk to reward. Good risk management there. I like it. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were
And the
we were
only yeah.
curious though because Ray asked at the beginning of the stream. He said, "Who took MSTR and why?" I was like, "That's a great question."
Yeah, but like
Such a
on
great
the
question.
on the 5 minute pre-market, this was like cup and handles as well, which I
Yeah,
really liked. Like
yeah,
there was some nice confluences, but I was really bummed out that it broke pre-market. So I
for
had
sure.
to change my strat to a pullback because I wasn't just gonna enter on that green candle.
Yeah,
Especially it doesn't really have a lot of contract volume off open. So
yeah. I
I
don't think
it
MSTR
ripped.
picks up volume very quickly, does it?
No, I got in at, I think, around 500 contract volume, or like $300 to $400, or 300 to 400 contract volume. And when I rechecked the contracts, they're at 500. But I think a
Gotcha.
lot of people got in and they started selling when they saw the red candle. So I got like a really nice fill, to be honest.
Nice. Nice. Good stuff. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I
but
appreciate you coming and explaining yourself.
if I had held and I didn't just instant take profits because of how long I was holding the trade, I think I would have made like an extra 20% on that as well.
Yeah. Those are Friday contracts, so they're not moving as crazy as
Yeah,
our Tesla contracts
because
were.
as soon as I got out, I think at 600 basically.
Hmm.
Oh wait, no, I did I get peak sell? No, there's no way. There's no way. Yeah, I sold for 600. I would have made like an extra $60 on those. So
Gotcha.
now that I'm looking at it, I'm not that bummed anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got the contract flip at 138. I got the premium flip, so
Yeah, that's solid though. That's great execution on that. Great execution on that. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on call and explaining yourself for the
worries.
stream. Great
Thank
work.
you.
I'm gonna hop off here and just go
Alright.
back to YouTube.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So let's see here. That would be your explanation as to what they were looking at on MSTR, guys. So for all of us that were a bit confused, there we go. Let's see here. What do we need to do? We need to rearrange the watch list. And then we've got some time for a Q&A still. So we're going to go ahead and throw just a side watch section in here. So Marvel, this one by default, I'm going to have to put in the side watch just because I don't necessarily trust this to have contract volume. Meta, I didn't like Meta's setup as much in the beginning, but Meta is one of those that it's going to be hard to pass up on taking a Meta trade if it still looks as good as it does right now in the morning. Obviously, AMD is my favorite looking one out of everything, though. AMD is definitely the winner right now for me. But if AMD breaks, which hopefully it doesn't, there's a good possibility it will, though. If AMD breaks, Meta is probably going to be my next go-to here. And then really all of these others, the LTR I'm going to put in side watch just because I don't necessarily trust the direction on this yet. But everything else is pretty equal, honestly. I'll probably move NVIDIA above Google in terms of how much I like it. NVIDIA is one of those that I would probably value a bit more than Google if we have a good setup. So, yeah, no, this is solid. I actually really like this watch list for tomorrow. INTC, Sasi. Always wants me to look at these low volume stocks. Yeah, I don't. I'm way good on this. I'm okay on INTC. I'll pass. This looks like a kind of similar setup to everything that we already have, except on a worse stock with just a worse setup overall. All these other setups were playing into some pretty major levels, except for Meta. Meta's really the only one we're not playing into like a major level. But Meta kind of gets a pass because it's Meta. INTC, not only are we not playing into any major levels, the stock is just also not great for volume on the contracts and on the stock. So I am going to be passing heavily on that one. see here. And then I know you said MSTR earlier. I don't have anything on MSTR. I didn't have anything on MSTR this morning, to be honest. But yeah, I don't have anything here that I'm too much of a fan of. I mean, really, even the high of day, you don't have a ton of room on that. So, all good there as well. Let's see. Do we have any questions tonight before we wrap this up? I'm going to give you guys just a second here. Also, why the market close to closing. Yeah, Seth. Let's see here. The video seems to be in a range. Yeah, Ray. My hopes for NVIDIA is that we can see enough momentum into this level tomorrow to get us out of this range. That would be my hopes for NVIDIA. I feel like the problem with NVIDIA is whenever we really start to go somewhere on NVIDIA, we need something on like the short term leading into something that's a little bit higher time frame to actually get anywhere. Like if we were to, let's say the day's not over, right? Let's say the day's not over and we were to approach this level towards the end of day from today. I would not expect us to go anywhere on this. We don't have anything set up in the very, very short term leading into these levels. So if we can have something that is set up on the short term where we can get momentum started into these levels, I think that's going to be our highest chance to get out of this range. Your entry is still in the exactly, Ray. That's what I'm saying. I want to see momentum pick up at this level. If we start the momentum from here, we should be able to get out of the range, especially if the rest of the market is as well. So that, I mean, that's the case with all of these, really. Google, not necessarily in a crazy range here, but if Google is breaking out, it's going to be getting out of a pretty nasty area. Same thing with Meta. Same thing with AMD, to be honest. I mean, AMD is in the same boat. We've been kind of stuck. I mean, it's a big range, I'll give it that, but we've been kind of stuck in this area for quite a while. So C is going to fade the AMD trade. Is all right. But yeah. Anyways, so that is what I'm more interested in than anything on NVIDIA. I want to see momentum pick up there. I don't care if it picks up beforehand. I want it to pick up at that level leading into these other resistances. And even if we don't get a full-on breakout out of these resistance levels, our entry is at a spot where we are going to be up nicely by the time we even get to the next resistance anyways. So if we just have to take profits there because, you know, momentum isn't continuing, or we see buyers kind of getting a little wimpy on us, that's going to be fine. Our next resistance level is far enough away from our entry that we're already going to be up nice enough to take profits. So it's a good scenario for us regardless. And I would much rather get my entry down here than try and get my entry at one of these levels, because if we do end up rejecting, then that's going to be a pretty nasty rejection for us. They're not going to give us much time at all to make decisions. So, yeah. we have any more questions here? We've got about 5 minutes left, 6 minutes left. All right. I am going to take that as a no. But everybody that is in here that is not in the floor, if you guys want to trade with me and the team, click the first link in the description. We'd love to see you first thing in the morning for pre-market review at 9 a.m. Eastern. Let's have another killer day tomorrow, guys. Have another killer day. All right. Wait, hold up. Why did you take Tesla today? Because I missed that entry. So I explained this earlier on Mike. The main reason that I was interested in Tesla is, first of all, buyers were really giving up around this area. Buyers could not continue this to the upside. Every time that they would try and push it, they would get smacked right back down pretty much immediately. The market was in the process of turning around. We also had a 1 minute trend just above where we were at on Tesla. So the risk to reward on this was super, super solid. We've seen this exact pattern form on Tesla about 1 million times. And so the risk to reward was worth it. We had a lot of confirmation on this setup as well. So it was worth the risk to me to take a position on this, targeting at least low of day. I mean, we were looking at a ridiculous risk to reward here. So it's worth the risk to me that I wanted to give this a shot. We had the market turning around already and starting to get aggressive. We had very clear proof of the buyers not being aggressive enough to continue this to the upside, just because I was reading the level 2 every single time that bid started getting above this 392.50 area. They just gave out immediately. And then on this candle in specific, we saw sellers step in pretty hard. So that is when we got our entry, and then we took it all the way down to basically the low of this 937 candle. So that is why I took it. It wasn't a setup that I'm typically going to be charting out and looking for. It was not a perfect setup that I would be throwing in the trade ideas in the morning, but just because that perfect setup is not there does not mean that if something has a good enough risk to reward and you have conviction behind it, that you cannot give it a try. I explained this a little bit more in depth on Mike earlier today, but when I see people taking trades, even if they are not trades that I would take, as long as they have a plan behind that trade and it actually makes sense to take that trade, I am okay with that, to be honest with you. Like, if you have a plan behind your trade, it makes sense, who cares if I would take it or not? And I actually use Seth's trade on MSTR as an example. Would I have taken that? Probably not, but he had a plan behind it. He had good risk to reward on it as well. And I know he actually sticks to his plans and sticks to his rules. So when I look at him taking a trade that I wouldn't typically take, I don't think, dude, what are you doing? I think, all right, cool. He saw something I didn't, right? And it was kind of the same thing with this. This is not a trade that I would typically take. This is probably a trade that you guys may have been questioning me for anyways, but the risk to reward was there. It is 100% absolutely worth it for me to try that out, especially with a lighter position size. Now, with both sets of contracts, I did end up having a pretty normal position size on that, but even if I took it with a lighter position size, it still would have paid insane, right? So can you explain what you mean by a rejection? Yeah, a rejection play is when we are basically just trading something that rejects instead of trying to trade something that is breaking out or breaking down. So when we're looking at a bounce play or a rejection play, we're looking for something to bounce back to the upside or reject back to the downside, rather than break out to the upside or break down to the downside. So was it more level 2 or reading the charts? Both, Ray. both. A lot of it was level 2 around the 931, 932, and 933 candles. Once we saw this candle right here, it was a little bit more, actually, really, up until the 935 candle, really, it was mainly level 2. And then on the 935 candle, once we got our entry here, it was a bit more of the charts, because once we broke below this mini little support here, we were either going to see a pretty quick sell-off, or we were going to end up seeing buyers hold this area. Ended up being the sell-off. So, yeah. Now, typically when I'm taking rejection trades, that's not even what I'm taking, right? This was literally just reading price action in the moment, recognizing something that I've seen on Tesla a million times, and just taking advantage of it because the risk to reward made sense. But yeah, anyways, all right. Back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, though. If you're not on the floor and you want to join the team, click the first link in the description. I'll see you all first thing in the morning for pre-market review. Let's have a killer day tomorrow.